Section 7 of the training. In this section, we'll be discussing the elbow signals. Once you understand correct signal structure for both buy and sell signals, learning about elbows should be quite easy. An elbow signal is simply a slight deviation from normal signal structure and only on the DS. Let's go to a chart and see how elbows look and how they form. Here's an example of a buy elbow signal. Before we can consider elbow signal formation, we must first get what we would normally have from both price and the MACD for a normal buy signal. In this example, the yellow line shows that we have a double bottom in price. You should remember that a double bottom in price is acceptable. The next yellow line shows that we have a higher low on the MACD. We must have this in order to have a buy signal. But now we look to the DS for similar formation to a higher low to what we had on the MACD. But instead, we get a slight bulge or point in the wall of the DS indicator. We were expecting a formation similar to this, where the DS actually hooks down and then hooks back up just as the MACD did. But instead, the DS just comes to a point or corner and never really actually hooked down. It simply curved out at an angle and then sort of shears off as it takes off at a steeper angle, forming the point on the DS that we call the elbow confirmation point. The yellow arrow identifies this point. Once this point or corner forms and the DS takes off at that steeper angle, we immediately get our confirmation candle to enter the trade. There are two problems that normally associate with elbow signals that you should be aware of. First, elbow signals nearly always seem to happen at once. That is, the signal formation doesn't follow the normal steps that regular signals do. The DS hooks, the MACD hooks, and the confirmation candle forms, usually all at the same minute, causing elbow signals to kind of sneak up and surprise us. With practice, though, we can actually learn when the DS is struggling to hook up for a buy or hook down for a sell signal, and we can actually anticipate when an elbow signal is likely to form. Another problem with elbow signals is the fact that they are nearly always choppy. Choppy means that there's insufficient volatility or up and down movement of price to allow for much chance of a successful two-point trade. For this reason, we restrict our use of elbow signals mainly to taking them when they're going with the trend. If an elbow signal is not choppy, it can be used just as any other signal. We'll devote an entire section to the discussion of exactly what choppy market condition is. So for now, let's just concentrate on elbow structure and let's look at some more examples of elbow signals. Elbow signals come in many sizes and shapes for both buy and sell. Here's an example of a rather prominent elbow sell signal. We see the DS coming out rather flat and then shearing off at that steeper down angle that produces the elbow confirmation point shown with the white arrow. Immediately after the elbow confirmation, we get our confirming candle, indicated with the yellow arrow. Here's an example of a more subtle elbow signal. In this case, it's a buy signal on an elbow with the white arrow pointing at the elbow confirmation point. Here's where we would enter the trade on our confirmation candle. Over here is another elbow, a sell elbow, but something is definitely wrong here. Remember that we must have what we would normally have for a sell signal from both price and the MACD. We do have a higher high in price, which is correct, but the MACD did not give us the required lower high for the sell signal. It actually made a higher high. The elbow on the DS simply takes the place of the lower high that we would normally get for the signal. Another important consideration is that elbows can only be taken as the second high or low of a signal and never the first high or low. In other words, from the DS, a signal can never start on an elbow. Here's a chart showing several examples of DS elbows. Notice how nicely the elbow signals going with the downtrend worked. Elbow signals going with trends is the best use of this type of signal. Well, this concludes section 7 of our training. If any portion of this section wasn't totally clear to you, then we suggest that you review this section again. And if any questions remain, please write them down, and we'll go over those questions in the online portion of your training. And if you thoroughly understood this section, then you can proceed to section 8.